In this video, we will show you how to replace your outside door handle on this Dodge Ram. This will be mounted directly to the outside of your door. To do this, you want to make sure you have the window in the fully upright position. Let's get into it. Let's get started removing the inside door panel. To do that, we'll make our way right up inside here. You'll find that you have two Phillips head screws. Remove the pair. Take hold of that grab handle, give it a little wiggle, and we're going to lift it up and out of here. There should be a couple little tabs coming across the front that hold it in place. Now we can move down to our inside door handle. For this, you'll find that you have a 10mm headed bolt. In some cases, it might even be a Phillips head. Once you have that nice and loose, you can remove the bolt with the handle at the same time. Now we can make our way to that window crank handle. To remove the crank handle from this area, you'll find that in between this plastic washer area and the crank handle, there's a small metal clip. We'll be using an angled pick to remove that clip. Just make our way in here. Pop this out of place. There's our clip. Now we can remove the crank handle. At this point, we'll just have a look at the backside here. We can remove these two pieces. With that out of the way, we'll continue on to our one Phillips head screw up in this corner. At this point, we'll continue on with a trim tool. We're going to start getting in between the door panel and the door itself and gently separate it. There we are. Now up near the mirror switch, we have to make sure that we disconnect that wiring harness. We'll grab onto this electrical connector. Right where my index finger is, there's a small squeeze tab. Go ahead and squeeze that in and disconnect that. We'll give it a quick inspection and we can set this aside. Now that we have the door panel out of the way, the next thing that you would commonly do would be to peel back the vapor barrier. On our door in particular, somebody already ripped it to shreds. There's not much left, but commonly you just grab onto it and carefully peel it away because you do typically want to reuse it. Once you have that out of the way, we'll be paying attention in this area. Let's have a look down inside this area. We're looking for two rods, not the one that's closest to us, but the two that are a little bit further in there. You'll find that one has a green locking connector and the other one has an orange. We'll just pop those out of place. We'll use a long pry bar or a screwdriver and gently push on this. Now we can pull the rod out of place. With that one separated, we'll do the exact same thing to the green one. Once again, pulling the rod out of place. To gain access to one of our mounting nuts, we'll come right through this hole. To remove this nut, we'll be using an 8mm. There's that small 8mm headed nut. Now we'll do the same to the other one. The next thing we'll do is remove this 8mm headed screw along the bottom of the handle. This screw is holding this bracket in place. We'll remove the screw and the bracket. There's our screw. Along the outside of the door, let's take hold of that handle, give it a little wiggle, and start lifting it up and out of here. Keep in mind, you do still have two rods that make their way down. Let's get this over to the bench. Over on the bench, looking along the back side of this, we'll continue on to removing our rods. Let's start with the upper one here. Just like while we were in the door, you want to go ahead and pop this out of place. We'll take this. With it in the unlock position, we'll slide it out. Give that rod a quick inspection. We'll set this aside. Now we do not need to remove the rod from the lock. We're going to remove the entire lock from the handle. To do that, you can use a pick or even a small screwdriver. Let's make our way under here. Now keep in mind this is under spring pressure and you don't want it to shoot out and potentially hurt you or somebody else. Now we can take hold of that lock, we'll give it a little wiggle and lift it up and out of there. Let's transfer this over to the brand new handle. Before we do that, let's remove the locking clip from our brand new handle. Once again, keep in mind that this is under spring pressure and we don't want it to fling across the room. Let's take that lock and slide it into position. Slide it right down. Install your brand new locking clip. Check that lock to make sure it is secured in place. You don't want this popping out when you try to use it. Let's get this other rod in here. Slide it right into place. Once you have it in there, make sure you lock it down. Listen for a click from that. Double check on both sides and make sure that's secure. We'll use a Phillips head to remove this mounting screw and bracket. Let's get back over to the vehicle. Let's carefully put this in place in the door. You want to make sure you put those rods down and behind this area. Now at this point, we'll have to come in at an angle so we can start bringing this down. What you'll find is if you were to pull on the handle, it brings down that lever just enough that you should be able to squeeze this in. Let's make our way inside the door and start on each one of those two 8mm headed mounting nuts. Start the other one on. Now we can snug each of these. Now we can get that bracket in place. Get this aligned. Start in that Phillips head mounting screw. Snug it up. Check that bracket to make sure it is properly secured. Now we can connect in each of our two rods. Start with whichever one you prefer. Press that in as far as we can, lock it down. Double check that rod to make sure it is secure. We'll continue on to the next one. Double check that rod as well. Let's test each of those rods. We'll do that using the door lock. That one's good. And now the door handle. Perfect. Once you're sure that's completely secure, go ahead and reinstall that vapor barrier. You want to try to stick it back into its original position. If it's not sticking very well, you could use some tape or other adhesive. Now we can get ready to install that door panel. Let's press this into position. Listen for a click from that. Now we can bring this up nice and high. We'll be paying attention to our door lock knob. You want to make sure you slide it through the door panel. Now as we continue down at an angle, we'll be paying attention to where the window crank handle will go. Make sure that's aligned properly and you can start pressing this into the proper position. With that in place, let's put in our upper mounting screw. Let's install that grab handle. We have our two Phillips head screws. All right, let's get ready for the installation of our door handle. You'll find that we have a Phillips head bolt on this. We'll take this, get it aligned in the proper position, and tighten it up. Right there's where it's bottomed out. Just make sure it's nice and snug. The next thing you want to do is just make sure you test its functionality. Let's install that window crank handle. For this, you want to make sure that you have the plastic buffer facing in the proper direction, so the concave area is facing towards the crank handle. Now we can take this, we'll slide it on here, and then press this into position. Okay friends, let's go ahead and test the functionality on our outside door handle. First, make sure that you have the door in the unlock position. We'll close the door and use the handle, make sure it functions properly. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.